You are literally faking 10 books from destruction after you move. What books would you choose? 10 books? I could do that.
We live in a world where people are too lazy to even click next episode or stay and watch the intro or the opening credits. That's why Netflix has a little skip intro button. And when you think about it, people don't like reading books because it takes long and it's gross and it takes long and it's gross and it takes long and it's so when you think about it, getting rid of all books really isn't a crazy idea. But if it were to happen, which 10 books would you save? And I am going to give you the 10 books that you should save, or that I'm saving anyways.
Everybody likes a good comic book, and I think that this is a perfect example of what a comic book should be. Funny, but also intriguing to older audiences. This book brings the curiosity, the imagination of a juvenile, and also contrasts that with the deep thinking and the existential crisis of a full-grown adult. And that's what I think this book really does well. Give this book to your annoying cousin who won't leave you alone, or your parent-in-law who really just shouldn't be talking to you right now. This is a perfect book for any circumstance whatsoever. It can make you happy, it can make you sad, it can make you laugh, and I think that everybody loves a good comic book. Personally, I believe that this book sparks creativity, imagination, and curiosity within the young readers, and also sparks critical thinking within the more adult readers. And that is why this book is number 1 on the list.
The next book on this list is A Dictionary of Creation Myths by David and Margaret Lemming. Leeming? Lemming? Did I say it right? David and Margaret Leeming. And basically, it's just an accumulation of creation myths and stories, all retold, and it's directed towards young children. Storytelling is old as hell. Boomers have been doing it for a long time, and boomers. Since the beginning of time, humans have been telling stories. I chose this book because I think it's important to give to young children because it teaches other children about existing cultures and other religions. And I think that becoming aware of that helps children recognize similarities between each culture because a lot of creation stories follow the same tropes and metaphors and same symbolism, like the sun and stuff like that. And I think that because these children will be able to identify these similarities between cultures, this might help with reducing xenophobia or racism at a young age. And that's why I chose this at number 2. The third book on our list is Animal Farm by George Orwell. And I really like this book because it has a very straightforward plot that's very easy to understand, and everything is relevant to the main theme and underlying message of the book. George Orwell doesn't add any filler, and it's a really good masterpiece because of all the allegories that this book contains. It talks about how power corrupts all good intentions, and I think that it's really important when you think about it, and you can apply it to a lot of stuff in the world, and that's why I chose it. The fourth book on the list is 1984 by, big shocker, George Orwell. Yes, I'm not a fanboy. Although this book contradicts some of the other political ideologies presented, I still think that it aligns with my political compass, and I still think that its message talking about government authority and power is pretty relevant and will be relevant, especially in the times where books will be banned or removed or destroyed or whatever happens to books in this universe. I think the plot is quite easy to follow, and so I think it's good for all types of readers, and I really think that this book is important because it will kind of give you an idea of what might happen if we give political parties too much power. And that's why I chose it. For the fifth book, we're going with Wizard's Heir. And I chose this book because not everybody likes to always have to think deeply about their books that they read. Some people just like, to just read. And so The Wizard's Heir is the second book in a 3-book series. And I know what you're thinking, Nick, Why not the first book? Why not the third book? Why the second book? Are you a psychopath? Yes! But I really like this book because it really is simple to read. It's nice, it appeals to teen readers because there's a little bit of romance, and it also appeals to young readers because this is talking about magic and warriors and wizards and stuff like that. Like, it's cool. It's a good series book. Anyways, so I added this book because I think that it encourages imagination and it appeals to all types of readers, and it's just a nice read.
Oh my God! Wow!
The sixth book in this list is a sci-fi fan's fantasy. It's The Whipped Dream. It's called The Manhattan Project, and it's written by Nick Pitara. It's one of the best graphic novels that I have ever read because it adds a little mix of mad scientist with history, and I think that's amazing. The art style demands the attention of the reader with its small, minimalist visuals, and it keeps the youth entertained by introducing crazy, wacky adventures. I think that the science fiction series is a little mature, but it's amazing to introduce concepts of science and also push the possibilities of these theories. I chose this because it sparks an interest in science, and I really think that it is a good book or graphic novel to start reading if you want to kind of learn a little bit more about the people behind science.
Yes, people will die. A lot of them, but the crisis will be averted.
What did she say?
Number 7 on our list, considered to be one of the greatest poems of all time, is Divine Comedy by Dante. I chose this poem or book because it covers a lot of different ideas. It introduces evil and describes punishment while simultaneously telling a love story. This book isn't afraid of calling out people as names and popes are dropped within the levels of hell, and this book often can get quite gruesome, describing the punishments within the 9 levels of hell. The story's setting makes it better as it adds substance and context to the well-written story, kind of describing what type of society and religion that this book was published in. Saving this poem is definitely a must because it tells a beautiful story and can be interpreted quite philosophically, and that's why I chose it. Next up, book number 8. Drum roll, please. Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Yeah, I know we just read this book, but I really think that it's a good book to save. I chose it because it warns us about the possibility of what happens if we pander media and always just give up our content because somebody else is offended. I feel like this book can be interpreted differently, and that's fine because I really don't have a problem with other people who have different opinions than me. I think this book sparks the imagination, as readers often have to consider what could happen to us and whether we are following the same trends as this book. Even though the conclusion kind of felt empty compared to the world building that this book did a really good job of, I still think that it's a really good book to save.
This is big brain time.
Number 9 is Candide by Voltaire. I know, you're probably like, why would you choose this if your main appeal is to make sure that everybody can read it? Well, this is a translated version, and also I think that the advanced readers need a little, bone to play with. So I chose this for the advanced readers and scholars, and it stands on optimism and reality. The satirical approach to such a deep philosophical question generates constant interest when reading this book. I believe that this book is something that has to be kept as it challenges existing power dynamics, and it really intrigues me. Although I would save this book because it is satirical and philosophical, there is some coarse language and also some kind of dated thinking, but it's still funny, and I think that it really makes the reader think, so that's why I'm keeping it.
Here's Johnny.
Last but not least, the 10th book is the complete Cthulhu mythos. It's written by H.P. Lovecraft, a man who wrote horror books but was scared of everything for some reason. Sometimes, as people, we need to be scared and also shaken to our core. And I think that these books do a really good job of making us recognize our insignificance to the world, how small we truly are. These books, most of the, I would say, horror protagonists are people who experience the sublime, something that is so great and vast it is beyond our comprehension. I believe that these stories do a really great job of grounding the reader and also creating existential thought. Lovecraft novels are fairly easy to follow. They're quite low level, and it's pretty simple to pick up the subtle themes in the book, allowing for more advanced readers to pursue the more complex and subtle themes, while beginning readers and youth can just read it for the story. And that's why I think that is a perfect book to close out this list. And with that, we're done. You survived the list. If you have any suggestions, you can drop them below or just tell me, but I probably won't listen because I really don't care. If you really want to talk more about this, I'm pretty sure I'm open, but like I said, I don't really care. So that's my opinion, and I'll see you next time.